Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence. I am coming on with a message that came through to me in my meditation, and that is the concept of feeling good for no reason. And I'm getting chills now as I'm about to start channeling into this because it is such a simple but key concept to follow to reach joy and abundance and all of the love that we can possibly experience in this lifetime. And I'm also being reminded of the concept that I've discussed on this channel a lot, which is the power of attention, the power of our choice, the way we choose to perceive things. For example, the choice between optimism and pessimism. And in this world of duality, making the choice that is going to lead us towards more love, more abundance, more of those higher frequency emotions. And as I was shuffling the oracle cards, normally cards pop out relatively quickly, but I was shuffling them for a good few minutes, and that in and of itself sparked this divine message of understanding that things take time, good things take time. And while many of us understand conceptually the concept of divine timing, there's a whole nother experience when you know what you want, or you know what kind of feelings you're trying to manifest, but it's taking time to receive the experiences that are going to lead to those feelings. And our ego will fight against the time aspect of things. Whereas our soul, which lives infinitely, beyond space and time in the spiritual realm, doesn't at all worry about the timing of things or how long it takes for things to manifest. But we do live in this earthly realm, and we do have physical and tangible experiences that we do want to have. We want to experience certain emotions, certain experiences. And when we don't feel like it's coming soon enough, our ego very much causes us to fall down that trap of feeling the disappointment and feeling the gap of what we want versus what we have. And it causes us to fall down that slippery slope into scarcity mindset. And so as I shuffled the oracle cards, it was such a subtle message coming through, but I think it's a perfect reminder on this topic of always keeping in our heart, in our soul, the commitment to and the choice to surrender to divine timing, to surrender to the part of the manifestations that is the role and the burden of the universe, right? The how, the when. Anything involving the timing is simply not our burden to bear. And that's a gift. It's a gift that we have this opportunity to co-create with the universe. It's not meant to be a restriction or something that causes us pain or is holding back the abundance that we seek, because ultimately these feelings can be conjured from nothing. I mean, you are the alchemist. You are learning that mastery of self, of alchemizing nothing to something beautiful, or alchemizing something negative to something positive. And that's why we always talk about the internal work, the inner work that we do to go inside out as we seek change and as we seek certain experiences in this lifetime. So to really step into that manifestation mindset and that mastery of the ability to manifest and magnetize the abundance and the love that we seek means that we must step into the understanding, the embodied understanding and remembrance that there is always going to be divine timing at play, and that we always have the power of perspective, the power of choosing to feel good for no reason, choosing to feel good even when the external scenarios or situations aren't reflecting what we wanted, because then when we rely on that, we fall down those egoic traps. So these are concepts we, of course, talk about so much on this channel, but I want to dive more into this concept of feeling good for no reason, because it doesn't mean that we don't ever want to feel bad. Of course, we don't want to bypass spiritually or emotionally any kind of negative emotions that are there for our growth. And in previous readings, I've talked about how there are negative emotions that are from the soul that are trying to teach you something, that are trying to expand your consciousness and allow you to grow and evolve. And there are also negative emotions that are simply a byproduct of your egoic spirals. It's like watering the weeds in the garden of your mind. And so once you're able to understand exactly where your emotions are coming from, you have a better idea of which ones are there to serve you and which ones are there to spiral you. So when we talk about feeling good, like I said, we don't want to only feel good, but we want to remember that we have the power to feel good whenever we simply remember that we can and that we want to feel good. So again, we welcome any negative frequencies that are put there to help our soul evolve. Those are the negative emotions, which of course the words positive and negative are egoic labels that we use to categorize them. But ultimately, if they're coming from the soul, then they are here to help your consciousness expand, to help your soul evolve. And that in itself is rooted in love and enlightenment and these beautiful high frequency emotions. So that's why it's important to distinguish the negative emotions that are from the soul, because they are still a gift. And so when I say that we welcome those negative emotions, I mean that we accept them and we work with them. And there's an element of surrender within that. Now, of course, we still are ultimately always moving towards love, right? So soul aligned or not, we don't want to feel negative, period, of course. But living in balance, of course, doesn't mean that we feel negative emotions as much as we feel positive emotions. It means that we're able to process them in a wise and soul-aligned way, where we use the negative feelings and emotions to alchemize it into something better, something beautiful, something positive. So again, balance doesn't mean that we're feeling negative as much as we're feeling positive, of course. It means that we are choosing to move towards love, to move towards positive, higher frequency energies, but doing so in a way that acknowledges and utilizes the negative experiences and emotions as they arise. And like I said before, the egoic ones are there to be filtered out, are there to be recognized as false, limiting subconscious beliefs, and the soul aligned negative emotions are there to really give us something to process and heal, all in the name of our soul's growth. And so when we talk about the power of choice, it's really like saying you have the choice to, keep your head down and cower into yourself, or you have the choice to look up and open your heart and open your eyes towards the love and the opportunities that are being presented to you. Which brings me to another concept that I've talked about on this channel that we've kind of been alluding to here, which is that when you are triggered or when you are tested with these so-called negative emotions and experiences, your choice, your ability to recognize the choice you have, to see these as a gift, will cause you so much elevated progress on your soul's journey, and will also allow you such a relief. It's like lifting a burden from your shoulders to recognize that you are not a victim of what you are being tested or challenged with, or the struggles that you're enduring, but rather you are being gifted these lessons because the universe, the divine forces knew that you were ready to evolve to the next step. And by processing this and by working through this particular experience, that is the stepping stone to get you to that next level. So again, the power of our attention, the power of the way we perceive our life is so important. And the now moment is the portal for that. In other words, when you are going through a particular experience in the current moment, or when you are looking back at a past experience that was maybe challenging or a struggle for you, the portal into abundance is in that now moment where you consciously make the choice, because you have the self-awareness to do this now. You consciously make that choice to feel and believe certain things about that experience that are going to feed and fuel and fulfill your soul's evolution. So if you went through, let's say, a very difficult, unhealthy relationship, whether romantic or with a family member, whatever this may be, and maybe there were lessons learned and mistakes made and all around negative emotions that were felt through that experience, you have the choice to look back on it as a blessing, as a lesson learned, as you elevating and being promoted to the next step of your soul's evolution, or you have the chance to look back at it as a unlucky situation that only caused you pain, that did nothing for you, that you were a victim of, right? Obviously, the former is the thought and the belief and the choice that is going to lead us more towards love, which is what we're seeking in this lifetime. And it's what our souls came here to do. It came to alchemize these experiences into something more positive. But again, I want to circle back to the concept of not bypassing these things. So when I say that we want to practice and live by this concept of feeling good for no reason, what I mean is that we feel good before we have a reason to feel good. We feel good before we have the magical manifestations placed in our lap. And the key here is that because we work from the inside out, because we are such masters of this manifestation, it's the inside out that is the mechanism that brings the manifestation. So it's backwards to wait for the external thing in order to feed and fulfill your positive internal experience. And that's just simply not how it works, because people will get their dreams and they'll still feel empty on the inside because they haven't practiced what it is to feel good and fulfilled on the inside. So that's what we mean when we say to feel good for no reason, because we know that that's the key to manifestation and that's the key to alchemy. And it's simply the key to enjoying your life more. And if you only have a set amount of years on this planet, wouldn't you want to spend as much of those years and days and hours and minutes feeling those more positive frequencies, feeling more love, feeling more joy? Again, not to bypass the negative experiences as they will inevitably come, but as an empowered choice to feel good simply because it's what we want and because we have the power to do so. And then when we are faced with challenges that make us feel those more negative emotions, although it's easier said than done, we still have the power in those moments to recognize that on the other side of it, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that is going to bring us back to those positive emotions. And that doesn't mean we want to rush to getting back to feeling positive or bypass, but it means that as we're feeling the negative emotions, as we're really leaning into shame, guilt, anger, sadness, grief, as we really lean into what those negative, uncomfortable emotions feel like, we do so to get to the root of our soul's truth, and that is love. And you'll find that as you do somatic work and as you really surrender to the shadows, to these negative feelings, and not in a way where we are repeating stories in our ego and watering the weeds, but in a way where we feel it in our body and we ask our soul and even ask your angels and spirit guides, why am I feeling this? What is this meant to be teaching me? And how can I alchemize this? Your soul will shine through, and suddenly your sadness will morph into acceptance and love and joy. And it's such a beautiful, hard to put into words process. And it's not something you can necessarily do in a matter of minutes or hours or days even. Sometimes it can take weeks to practice and really fully process whatever subconscious limiting belief or past traumatizing experience is causing you these negative emotions. But on the other side of it, when you've alchemized it into something beautiful, you recognize that now you are back to that baseline of feeling good, not because something came in and solved the problem for you, not because you have some reason to feel good because some external wish was fulfilled, but because you did the inner work, you leaned in and you alchemized it into something beautiful. And that is mastery of self. And that is what really evolves you into the most empowered sovereign being that you can possibly step into, the highest one, the highest version of yourself that you can possibly step into in this lifetime. And it's such a tender experience to go through, especially if you're experiencing a very negative or a very traumatizing or a very heavy experience. It, of course, will take a lot of energy and a lot of practice and a lot of that alchemization. And it's not something that can be forced. It's not something that you can just feel good, force yourself to feel good, or force yourself to listen to affirmations. It really is a process that may take a lot of time and that requires you to surrender to how fast you can do it, to surrender to how uncomfortable you will be in the process, but to always hold on to that soul knowing that you will find your way back to love and back to those feel-good frequencies. And this commitment to inner work is rare, but it's becoming more and more appreciated and sought out. I mean, the world is becoming more aware of these concepts of spiritual evolution, of self-development in a raw, emotional, spiritual landscape. And truthfully, these kinds of concepts and techniques are becoming more and more treasured by the collective. And there are more people entering into this collective mission, this collective purpose that if you are listening to this and this is resonating with you, that you are in, which is such a beautiful path to be on. And you can see this because you are making the choice to see the beauty in the journey, which actually is reminding me, I didn't even speak on the oracle card that I pulled, which is seek beauty. So after I was shuffling the oracle card for a few minutes, that's the card that popped out. And I felt that it was so fitting because I was just channeling into this concept of feeling good for no reason. And so getting the card seek beauty is so aligned with that because it's about taking the time and making that choice to reflect on, or to seek out and reflect on the beauty that you find, the love that you experience, the memories, the experiences, the celebrations, the special occasions that you have in your life. All of these happy moments that support you on your journey and that rewire your brain to normalizing that feeling of feeling joy and love and beauty. But as we've been saying, this isn't just about those external experiences and celebrations. This is also about your inner world and looking within to find that beauty. And of course, this is bringing us to the ultimate message of self-love, seeking out the loving qualities within yourself that you appreciate, making an active effort and choice to seek, to search and find your own beauty within. When you get into the habit of recognizing all the ways in which you are a beautiful soul, all of the ways in which you have grown and evolved and developed your abilities through your inner work, through your healing, to create and spread more love on this planet, that is something we should be constantly aware of and appreciating about ourselves. So when you're seeking that beauty, you will find it and it will bring you more joy. And it's that internally cultivated joy that is that much more fulfilling than the ones we get from external experiences and celebrations. So when you're able to look at yourself with these eyes and look at the world around you as well, from this new perspective full of pure light, pure love, you will attract and magnetize more of it into your life. And that is the message that really wanted to come through for you today. The power of choice, the power of being able to feel good, being able to find beauty everywhere that it exists, within and without, and the understanding that even those soul-aligned negative experiences and emotions and challenges and struggles are all ultimately feeding into our soul's evolution, which is the ability to feel, experience, and spread more love and joy and good feelings in your life, in the lives of others, and on this planet. So thank you so much for listening. As always, I would love to hear from you in the comment what resonated, what type of topics you would maybe like to hear more about, or what kind of readings you enjoy the most. I would just love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.